Hi everyone, welcome. Today we're going to tackle a topic that might seem overwhelming, but one in which we believe you're perfectly positioned to guide your students. Our goal today is to give you the clarity and resources for preparing your students for tomorrow, careers in the age of AI. Before we begin, we want to make sure that you are able to earn a certificate for attending our webinar. So on the same page in IBM Skills Build, where you access the Zoom link for this session, please make sure to click Enroll on the right side of the web page, and then you'll be all set. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Tom.
All right. So I just want to do a quick introduction. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're back for, I think this is our fourth webinar. So thank you so much for joining. My name is Tom Driscoll. I'm the CEO of EdTechTeacher. My experience, I was a high school social studies teacher, digital learning director for a regional school district, keynote speaker, and author. My focus and research interests are empowering teachers with technology, AI in education, project-based learning, and of course, my passion project, civics education, practices in engaging students across K-12. And I'm also joined by my colleague tonight, Catherine. So let Catherine jump in.
Hi everyone. My name is Catherine Atkinson. I'm an instructor with EdTechTeacher, and I'm a former middle school world history teacher. I taught for 27 years. Miss those kiddos a lot, but I really do like this new pathway that I'm on. I'm doing instruction. I'm instructional design. I do research, and Tom mentioned his passion. His passion. Mine actually is along the lines of Tom's, but it's specifically meaningful learning with technology. I'm a firm believer that technology is a tool that we can use to make learning and make teaching more enjoyable. So that's kind of the frame that I use in everything that I do. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our learning objectives. For today in our session, we're hoping that you will be, by the end of it, that you'll be able to identify a range of emerging AI career paths. We know those are going to keep changing. To recognize the interdisciplinary skills that prepare students for AI careers, and then to discover learning resources and pathways that students can pursue to build relevant experience and knowledge. All right, back to you, Tom.
All right, I'm actually going to take a pause because I want to jump into the Q&A. First of all, hello from Romania. So we actually have a couple of folks joining us. It is 2 a.m. in their country, so thank you so much for joining us in the middle of the night. The question also was about the link for enrolling. So that is um, when you got the email back from us, we had a link to um, where is it here? I think it is. Yes. So here, the link should go to the IBM Skills Build. That's where the link is to get your credit to enroll. If you're having any issues with it, though, feel free to reach out to us at any time. You can reach out to us at admin@edtechteacher.org, or you can hang on at the end of the webinar today. We'll actually save a few minutes towards the end just to make sure everybody can access that. So first, thank you so much for joining, and yes, we'll make sure that you can enroll and you can get a certificate at the end of today. Okay, so a little bit about EdTechTeacher. So our mission is to help teachers. So really our main focus is to help educators thrive in the classroom. I was actually just at my daughter's soccer game today, and someone asked me, "What do you do?" And my answer was, "I help teachers," right? So that's what we do. We help teachers. And what we actually do is we focus on professional development around educational technology, but also grounded in the idea of we're all educators. This is based in teaching and learning, and technology should be in the service of enhancing instruction. So we firmly believe that we're all former educators or current educators. And not only do we work with schools and districts, we also partner with educational technology businesses and organizations such as IBM, Google, Adobe, a lot of other partners. So we help schools in a variety of ways, and we are so happy to have you join us tonight because this is just one thing that we do is free webinars for educators around the world. So again, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. So on the screen here, we want you to just take a moment to pause and reflect and to think about the students in your classes. So 10 to 15 years from now, their careers will be fundamentally shaped by artificial intelligence. Will their jobs be about building AI working alongside AI, or finding work in a field that is completely untouched by it. So obviously we can't predict what the future will hold, but as part of the EdTech community, we're here to empower teachers like you to help students navigate it. So right now I'm going to have Tom go ahead and launch our first poll. It's a confidence one. We always like to just put out questions out there. So for this poll here, we are asking, how confident do you feel about guiding your students toward future careers in AI related fields? So not confident yet, all the way to very confident. And these polls are anonymous, but they do give us an idea of where we're starting, and then hopefully by the end of the hour we can move that needle just a little bit.
All right, so thanks everyone. Thanks for jumping in. It looks like we have about half the folks that have joined have answered so far. It looks like we got a good mix, about 50-50 between two and three. We have one vote for four, so one
Hey.
person's ready to rock and share about AI and careers, which I love. And yeah, and everybody else is kind of in that 1 to 2 range.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating in that. Okay, so now I'm gonna actually turn it over to Tom to kick us off. Oh, sorry. I
Yeah, I
guess
was
you
just
wanted
gonna
to share the
share.
result, Tom. Sorry.
Yeah, yep. So there are the results. So I believe you can see it on your end. Yeah, so we had one person with a four, we had 42% three, 42% two, and one person said one, still learning about it. So thank you so much for joining. All right, so how is AI impacting careers today? And this is something that I find so fascinating because when I first started to think about this, Catherine, I said I wasn't going to riff a lot tonight. I'm going to do it anyway. So I really thought like this was about tech careers, like IT careers. As the past 6, 9 months have gone by and we start to look at this, this is not just about tech careers. This is about all careers, right? AI is going to impact just about every career you can imagine. So I think it makes a lot of sense to think through not just like the high tech piece of this, but how can we prepare students? How can we ourselves prepare for a world in which AI impacts just about every career you can imagine? So what we're going to do is take a quick look at some of the ways it already is impacting careers in a wide variety of disciplines. It's not just about computer science. It's about every every field. So I always like to start our workshops, not just the webinars, but even our live workshops with schools. We like to start with just showing what are some of the positive ways that AI tools are impacting society and solving some of our greatest challenges. One example is the way that they're using it with antibiotics. So, this is an example from 2024 on medical research in which machine learning was used to predict potential new antibiotics, which impacts antibiotic resistant research. And actually, even during the COVID crisis, I believe a couple of the vaccines that were developed at that time were using different research and different methodologies that were leveraging AI tools to help speed up the development process. So there's been an incredible increase in development of AI in the medical space. And then also in adaptive and accessibility. I think that this is probably one of the most, I don't say, probably has the most potential impact, especially with education, is the accessibility piece. Getting more people to access education in different ways utilizing AI tools. So, this example is actually from one in which they implanted electrodes into, his name is Casey Harrell. They implanted it into his brain and it helped to connect his brain to a computer, which then allowed him to speak with the assistance of an AI-powered computer voice. So it essentially gave him a way to communicate with people in a way it never has. And there was actually a example I'm going to share a little bit later. We don't have too much detail on it in the spreadsheet, but also applying it to people with irregular speech patterns like cerebral palsy. There's actually a tool that a school here where I live in Rhode Island is trying out in which students that have irregular speech patterns, say like cerebral palsy, you can use that tool and it will detect and understand your speech patterns and translate it in ways that were never before possible, even a couple years ago. So there are kids right now that are communicating with their families for the first time through language because of these AI tools, which is just to me, like as someone who has a couple kids, like the fact that it can do that really does mean a lot, like especially for that family. So these are not trivial technologies. These do really open up a whole world of accessibility. The other area is it seems like a pretty far departure, but the idea of agriculture, right? So there are farms and agriculture institutions across the world now that are experimenting with different AI tools to help with all different parts of the space. But one of it could be using AI to identify certain pests that might be in the fields, drones that are used to assess water or pesticide levels, robots and self-driving tractors and combines that are used to reduce the strain and understaffing and shortages of labor. And actually, John Deere has a director of emerging technologies in the Intelligent Solutions Group, meaning they are heavily invested with leveraging AI to help support agriculture across the world as well. Oop, that's not good. What did I just do? Okay. Okay, there we go. So another example from science is some more medical advancements. This one is from Stanford, and AI helps doctors review images and hone in on disease-associated anomalies. And then researchers at Stanford Medicine have developed an AI model able to incorporate visual and language-based information. And just as an aside, we are actually working with a couple researchers now in the medical education field that are working through different ways that AI can not just help doctors in the field, but doctors preparing to become emergency medical physicians, right? So it's not just in the practice, it's also preparing to be part of the practice. So this is definitely becoming more of a standard practice in medicine as well. And then this one might seem a little bit out of left field, but we like to put some different variety in here. There's even examples of clearing landmines using some of these tools. So, a lot of different ways that AI is intersecting in different fields around the world, and it's already here. So, if you're wondering, you know what, I teach XYZ topic, XYZ subject, if you really do want to prepare them for real world learning in that field, all you have to do is just take a look at that field and see how AI is impacting it, and you will find several examples. So that would be my one takeaway. One of the first takeaways from today's webinar is whatever fields you are preparing students for in your classroom, just look at how they are leveraging AI right now. Not even in the future, just right now. Because there are so many examples that you can bring into the classroom that will not only help students, but also hopefully get them excited into seeing what the possibilities are in these different fields using AI. All right, so that's a quick overview of some of the examples of how it's used. I'm going to kick it back to Catherine to talk about some of the new careers and the new career landscapes.
All right, so thanks, Tom. So now that you have a better idea of how AI is currently impacting a variety of industries and jobs, we're going to now turn our attention to what's next. So, what does a career in the age of AI look like, and how can we better prepare our students for this inevitable future? Okay, so one myth, AI jobs are only for brilliant coders or mad scientists. So let's talk about the perception of AI. So when we hear AI, many of us picture a room full of brilliant coders or even a mad scientist in a lab. And while those roles may exist, they represent just a small part of the picture. So the reality is that AI careers draw on a wide range of skills and professionals. So we need to reframe how we view careers in the age of AI. We need to think about AI as a team sport where there's a place for every kind of thinker on the team. So there's a diversity of roles when it comes to AI. So career success and longevity in the age of AI are no longer simply about deep technical skills. Creativity and communication are just as valuable. So let's take a look at what that means. So we need to think of the diversity of roles for careers in the age of AI as a spectrum. So on one end, you have the deeply technical roles, the builders of AI. These are your machine learning engineers and data scientists who code, train models, and refine data. Their work sits at the intersection of math, science, and computer science. In the middle are the interdisciplinary roles, where technology meets people. The AI product managers decide what to build and why, and AI ethicists ensure that systems are fair, responsible, and aligned with human values. On the other end of the spectrum are the creatively focused roles, the artists, the writers, educators, and innovators who use AI as a tool for creativity and problem solving. So think of prompt engineers who design prompts that bring out AI's most original and useful responses. So as we explore this further, keep in mind that a career in the age of AI is not a single path, but a wide and diverse landscape where every student can find a place. Now let's take a look at the connections right here in our classrooms. So a common question you might be thinking about is, I don't teach a robotics or computer science class. How do I prepare students for this? And the honest truth is you're already doing it. You're already fostering the necessary skills that students will need in the AI-driven world. It's just about finding what I'm calling those AI aha moments in your existing lessons. So now we're going to take a look at the courses typically taught in schools to highlight the classroom connections to current AI roles and professions. So let's start with the highly technical side of AI. This is often where the fear comes from, right? These roles can seem out of reach, reserved for just a small group of experts. But the truth is, the foundation is built on the same STEM skills students are already learning in school. So, for example, the learning engineer, that's the architect who designs and builds systems that let machines learn, right? A machine learning model is just a complex math question. When students write code or solve challenging math problems, they're already developing those same foundations. And then there's the data scientist, the storyteller of AI. They gather and analyze data to find patterns and make predictions. This field is grounded in statistics and math, but also relies on critical thinking and communication, the ability to explain results clearly to others. So here's the takeaway. These roles aren't beyond reach. They're simply the next step in applying the STEM and problem-solving skills that students are already building today. So I'm going to pause for a moment and just let you think about the students in your class right now. Who in your class might gravitate towards these highly technical roles? Because I bet you have a couple in your classes. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So if the technical roles are the engine of AI, the interdisciplinary roles are its heart and soul, the ones that make sure AI is not just powerful, but purposeful and fair. So take the AI ethicist, ideal for students who love debates or civics. So that's a tall in our background, right? So they like to ask the tough questions such as, is this system fair? Who might it harm, etc. So they're the conscience of the AI team, ensuring technology serves people, not the other way around. And then there's the AI product manager, the translator between people and technology. They define what to build and why, turning complex human problems into clear goals for engineers. So students who shine in business, speech, or debate are honing the communication and leadership skills needed to thrive here. So the crucial point we'd like to highlight is that these jobs prove that human-centered skills are not just soft skills, right? They are essential, high-demand skills that are critical in the careers in the age of AI. So once again, just want to pause for a moment. Think about the student in your class who might gravitate towards these interdisciplinary roles. All right. So now
While
let's
while
move.
you while you pause, I'm sorry, Catherine. I
Okay.
want to tell a story. I want to tell a
Okay.
story. So, when I first started teaching, I loved political cartoons. If you're a younger teacher, you may not even know what a political cartoon from a newspaper is, but there was one, and I still remember it to this day. Don't take offense, right? But it said the STEM major and the humanities major. And it had the STEM major, and it said, I figured out how to clone a dinosaur. And everybody's throwing a party on the STEM side. And then on the humanities side, it was just a bunch of people saying, should we do this? Right? I loved it because it showed that like there is this balance, right? Because you may have the person that's more on the highly technical side that can find amazing things that AI can do, but we're still going to need, and actually even more so need the people that will say, you know what? Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't do this type of thing, right? So I think that the idea of having that humanities approach with civics, English, and so social studies, particularly around the ethics piece, is so important. So please, 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 when you talk about this with students, it's not just about the technical piece, it's also about this interdisciplinary and ethics piece. So sorry, Catherine, just had to share that story. I thought that was
Oh, no worries. I mean,
important.
that just reminds me when I was in the classroom in the middle schools, we were always talking about the why behind things and the
Mhm.
idea of just because you can, should you, right? So
Right,
it's also that moral compass kind of thing. So that's why,
right.
I never liked the idea of the term soft skills because I don't think they're soft at all. I think they come up with a different name because they're absolutely essential
Yes.
skills. All right,
Right.
so let's go ahead and move on to the other side of the spectrum. So the creatively focused roles, and so this is where AI and imagination meet. So I think there's enough people out here that worry that AI will replace artists and writers, but in reality, the more that I learn about AI, I think the more that Tom learns about, it, I think we are better understanding that AI is amplifying creativity. So AI can handle the routine tasks so that we can focus on originality and innovation. So, for example, take the prompt engineer, right? It's someone who loves words and knows how to communicate clearly with AI to produce meaningful, creative results. And then there's the AI content strategist who uses AI to brainstorm, analyze trends, and draft ideas, but still brings a human voice, judgment, and emotion that AI can't replicate. So the big idea is AI doesn't replace creativity, it extends it. So students in writing, art, and media are already developing these skills that make them essential in this new landscape. Okay, and so like I asked with the other two, just think for a moment which students in your class might gravitate towards these creatively focused roles. Okay. So now let's look beyond the core curriculum to the clubs and electives already nurturing future AI professionals. And many of you are probably part of these programs, and the work you're doing is so incredibly valuable. So let's take robotics. So students aren't just building machines, right? They're programming autonomous systems and using sensors to make them see and think. Right? That's the same foundation machine learning and robotics engineers use in the room. I've seen it done at the elementary level. I've seen it done at the middle school level. So it's already occurring, right? Then think about the speech and debate or even the school newspaper club, right? So these may not seem like they're anywhere related to STEM, but participation in these activities can help build critical skills. Debate sharpens logic and communication, while journalism teaches students to evaluate information and find meaning in the data. So, together, all these activities blend the technical, the creative, and the human skills, helping students become not just users of AI, but thoughtful creators and leaders in this evolving world. So now we do have a survey question that we want to throw out there for you. So we want you to take a moment to think about your curriculum, your elective courses, or even a club you sponsor. So what skills and knowledge are you already teaching and fostering that align with these evolving AI roles? And I think we do have a poll for this one, right, Tom? Oh, yeah, you do. Yeah. And we would love to have you just share maybe maybe you didn't think about this, but that's why we were kind of throwing it out there. So what
Yeah.
do you already teach where you're like, oh, your AI aha moment?
Yeah, and we'll leave that open until our next poll, just for you to jump in. But I think as we go through this, you're going to realize that you do teach a lot of skills, especially when we go through this next part, that are going to be so important. I actually just earlier this afternoon, I talked with my son who's going into ninth grade, so he's in the thick of this, and he asked me about some of this. Like he asked me a lot, like what should I be focused on? And I'm like, if you're creative, you know how to think, you know how to solve problems, you're going to be good. Right? So I think sometimes we just need to kind of take a step back and be like, all right, what are you going to do with AI? Right? So that's one of the things we're going to get to next is like not just learning about AI, it's like applied AI. What can you do with it in your field? How can you make a positive impact with it? And that's going to be so important. So as you go through this, even if you don't feel like you teach AI, just know that there's a lot of skills that are probably already part of your repertoire that are going to prepare students for the age of AI, but you just need to make the connection for them. Like just kind of explaining to them how that skill is going to help them now that we're in the age of AI. And I also bring this up. because I think it makes a difference. We're not talking about adding AI into education and jamming it in. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about teaching in the age of AI. We are teaching in the age of AI. Things are different now. So I think giving kids some clear understanding of, yes, this is a skill that we've been teaching forever, but it's also how it applies in the age of AI. That's going to be very empowering for them because they're going to have some agency over how they can become part of this new economy, this new society. It's going to be really important for them to make those connections, and you can help quite a bit. Okay, so let's kind of get into some more of that. So the idea of not just talking about coding, right? So if anybody who's been teaching for the past 10 years, you remember the hour of code, right? That was a huge thing. Everyone had hour of code. Everybody had the Mark Zuckerberg posters all over their schools. We get that, right? But it's not like those skills were like for naught. Like it was important, but it's not just about coding, and we realize that now. It's an interdisciplinary approach to this. So let's just start with the first thing. You are perfectly positioned to help students think critically about and to prepare for their future work lives, right? So you are in a good position. So even though you may think that AI is moving real fast and careers are changing, you're in a good place, right? Because a lot of the skills that you've been teaching, that you've been leaning on, are going to help. Now, if all you've been doing is teaching content, I'm not sure I can help you there, right? Because that's really not super important anymore. But it's what can you do with the content you're teaching? That's not a new idea. I mean, we've been talking about that for decades, right? So it's really just the core part of teaching these skills is going to be very, very important moving forward. So let's just go with the first myth. The most valuable skills for students in an AI-driven world are technical, like coding and programming. That is simply not true. Like it can help, but it is not true. And let's be honest here. Let's just throw it out there. There are a lot of layoffs happening now with low-level coders, right? So if all you have is low-level coding skills, it's not super valuable anymore, right? So there's even that myth of coding is going to help you get to the promised land. That's not true either. It's really what can you do with these tools now that they're out there. So the most valuable skills now are not the ability to just code something, because Claude can code just about anything right now. The most valuable skills are uniquely human abilities that AI cannot replicate, right? So thinking through what are those skills that you can apply AI and make use of it, that's not offloading it to AI, but can help make AI usage even more helpful and useful. So what to do? So the main thing here is to be intentional about providing opportunities for students to practice and apply some of these transferable skills. Now, I know what you might be thinking. You might be like, you know what, Tom? My school banned all AI for kids. You may be in that situation. I just talked to a school today where that was the situation. It is what it is, right? But you can still teach and practice some of the transferable skills about AI. So until school districts kind of get their act together and start providing safe spaces for students to use this, we can still start teaching some of those transferable skills until they get access to some of these tools. 'Cause they're going to get access at some point, right? They are. It's just how long schools are going to take to get the access. But if you can start focusing on those transferable skills, you don't have to wait for schools to figure it out. Okay, so let's just start with creative problem solving. So that's the first piece. The ability to find novel solutions, not just follow a script. That is so important, right? So this skills for instance, if you're an AI product manager, an AI consultant, who use AI not to replace innovation, but to rapidly prototype ideas and test new solutions, this is so important, right? To creatively identify how AI can solve real world problems and to work with a team to build the right solution. So think about what that means. You're identifying a problem, you're iterating, you're coming up with a potential solution, you're testing it out, you're collaborating with the team. Those are all very important skills. Now, the AI helps you with that, but you still need the skills to be able to engage in that process. Right, so the ability to find novel solutions and not just follow a script is going to be very important. And the other big picture here is that AI is becoming so powerful. If there's something that's like an if then, like if this happens due to this, that's going to get automated. It is. It just is. So if that's your only skill set is to read a recipe and to repeat it, it's not going to be as valuable. It's just not. It's going to be more about finding those novel solutions and coming up with new solutions based on some of the tools that you have. That's what's going to be really important for kids. And again, that's not anything new either, but the idea of like inquiry-based instruction, take the science experiment, right? So there's a science experiment where you pose a problem, you have them come up with a solution. That's like inquiry-based approach. If you say, here's a lab and follow step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sure, like they could do that, but that's not going to be terribly helpful for those kids moving forward because the idea of just doing something that someone tells you exactly what to do, that's not going to be very valuable in a world driven by AI. It's just not. So thinking through how you can come up with more creative problem solving for your students is going to be very helpful. So a classroom connection in history, students are asked to imagine or come up with several different what if scenarios for a particular historical event. Critical thinking and media literacy, that's another excellent example. Um, Ability to critically analyze and evaluate the outputs of AI to spot biases in information. We talked about this a lot with the AI ethics seminar we did a couple weeks ago. Using AI as the object of study. Like, what is biased about this? What is off about this? So, actually using that to critique the AI output, because that also provides more agency for kids. It allows them to evaluate it and not just take it at face value. So, in English or social studies, students can evaluate a source for bias and cross-check for information. That's been a mainstay in humanities for a long time. So, keep doing it. But now you're doing it in the AI age. And then collaboration and communication, the ability to work effectively with others and know how to communicate with clarity. That is going to be so, so important because even as AI starts to become more prevalent in all of these workflows, you still need to communicate. You need to do it with clarity, but also, even if you're using AI tools to help communicate, you still need to know what good communication looks like to actually use the AI tool to engage in it, right? It kind of reminds me of when I started doing my flipped classroom videos. If you had a boring lecture and you made a flipped classroom video, guess what? Now you just have a boring flipped classroom video, right? So it starts with like the practice. Like if you're good at communicating and then you use it with AI, you're going to be good at communicating with AI. But if you're poor at communicating and then you just add AI to it, now it's just going to be poor AI driven communication. So you need to have the underlying skill first and then start to think about how that could be leveraged with it. Okay, so in a classroom connection in science, students could work in teams to design, run, and evaluate the results of an experiment. And then adaptability and lifelong learning. So the willingness and ability to constantly learn, unlearn, and be flexible with changing circumstances. If you followed AI at all, you know that there is nothing constant about it, right? You have to learn. You have to be flexible. You have to change. If you don't have a mindset where you're willing to learn and acquire new skills, you are done in this new age. Like you have to be willing to learn. And as educators, I've always felt, and this is a little bit of a soapbox thing for me, if you're not willing to learn, why are you teaching? Like we are in the profession of learning, right? So I think a lot of this too is about as educators, we have to get back in that seat of we are learners, just along with our kids. As these tools emerge and as they evolve over time, we have to have the willingness to learn and unlearn things that we've done for years. Because that's going to be part of it too. The sunk cost fallacy, I've done it for 20 years, so I need to keep doing it. We need to get rid of that, right? Things are changing now, so you have to have that willingness to try something new and to be flexible. And you have to model it for kids, because if you expect it for kids and you don't do it yourself, that's going to be a problem. So it's modeling that flexibility and that willingness to learn is really good. In the schools that I've worked with in the past two months, the ones that I am confident are going to do this are not the ones that know it the best right now. It's the ones that are rolling up their sleeves and saying, you know what, we got to figure this out. We need to help prepare kids for this new world of AI. How can we prepare them for these careers? And they're really thinking hard about that. They're not sitting on their hands and waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They're looking at how can we adapt and be more flexible as things are changing. So that's where most people are going to be successful right now. So classroom connection in math class, students can grapple with an especially difficult problem that may or may not be able to be solved or use different methods or strategies. All right. So with that, I'm going to kick it back to Catherine. All right. So even if you understand all this, where do we start? How do we start to build this into our classroom? So Catherine, take it away.
All right, thanks, Tom. So now that you have a better idea of how lessons and activities in your classroom can help students develop critical skills for career success, we're going to now turn our attention to the foundational knowledge that makes AI possible. So while human-centered skills are crucial for guiding AI, it's the technical skills rooted in computer science and STEM that empower students to understand how these systems are built and how they work. So the myth is that all students must become expert programmers to have a career in AI. But the reality is, while not every student needs to be an expert programmer, foundational knowledge and skills are crucial. And that actually applies to you as a teacher too. I mean, you need to sort of like what Tom was saying, constantly learn about what AI is so that we can be maybe one step ahead of the game, right? So students need to develop a basic understanding of computational thinking and STEM skills. So for example, students should know what an algorithm is, how data is used, and the underlying logic that makes AI work. So the AI systems are built using computational thinking. They follow algorithms, they analyze data patterns, and they break big challenges into small tasks. So computational thinking is the foundation. It's the logic and process skills students need to understand how AI works. AI, on the other hand, is the application. It's the what students can build or explore once they have those thinking skills. So let's look at how computational thinking forms the backbone of AI tools and systems. So we're going to get a little bit into the CS lingo. So decomposition is first. So it's the skill of breaking a big messy problem into smaller manageable parts. So think about a student working through a multi-step math problem, right? They isolate the variables, the constants, and the operations before deciding what to simplify first. So that's decomposition in action. Next comes pattern recognition. So this is spotting trends and connections. So when students study why civilizations collapse, they're looking for patterns across history. And this is what I did a lot with my middle schools because we studied world history. Then there's abstraction. So filtering out the noise to focus on what matters. So maybe in an English class, when students analyze a poem, they're separating the literal from the figurative, right? Zooming in on the core message or the universal theme. And then finally, algorithmic thinking. So designing clear step-by-step instructions to solve a problem. So that's the same logic that AI systems follow. When students learn to write an algorithm, they're essentially learning how AI thinks. So when we teach students computational thinking skills, we're not just teaching them to use the AI tools, we're actually helping them to understand how those tools reason and why they behave the way they do. So that's the kind of thinking that prepares them for careers in the age of AI. So now let's take a look at how about the STEM AI connection. So STEM and AI are tightly connected because AI is both the product of the STEM fields and a tool that also advances them. So AI is built through math, science, and engineering, but AI is now driving breakthroughs in those very same fields. So now let's take a look at how STEM and AI connect. Okay, so science gives AI its purpose. So it's how we use AI to model complex systems, analyze huge data sets, and speed up discoveries in what Tom was talking about, medicine, biology, climate science, etc. So in short, AI is becoming a scientific partner for discovery. And then technology is where those ideas come to life, right? The chatbots, the generative models, the robotics, these are all tangible products of AI innovation. They actually show students how code and creativity intersect. And then engineering is the how. It's about designing, testing, and refining the algorithms and hardware that make AI systems actually work. This is where problem solving and persistence come together. And then mathematics, that's the foundation. Statistics, probability, linear algebra, those all form the language that AI uses to find the patterns, learn from data, and then make the predictions. So when students explore AI through a STEM lens, they're not just studying the four disciplines, they're actually seeing how those subjects power the intelligent systems shaping our world. Okay, so recall the diversity of roles when it comes to the careers in the age of AI. It means that we need to explicitly teach and emphasize to students the importance of mastering these foundational skills. So let's take a look at what that means. So students can practice logic and algorithmic thinking by providing clear, logical, and step-by-step instructions. So when we ask students to write clear directions or explain their reasoning out loud, such as using visible thinking routines, we're building algorithmic thinking. Tommy might want to go to the next slide for me. So they're learning to think logically, test solutions, refine their steps. So it's exactly how programmers train AI systems to think efficiently. So what does it look like in the classroom? You could have students create flowcharts for a decision-making process, right? And it can be as simple as telling students, decide what to eat for lunch. What are the steps, for getting ready to go to school? Where students can actually use different shapes to represent steps, decisions, and outcomes. I mean, that's something that you can easily do, right? An elementary example that's been floated, it's been around forever, is having students write out, well, how do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And then actually following through those directions step by step to see, do they have all the steps in line? So I've seen that one done before. It's actually pretty cool. And then after you have students do an activity like that, just have them explain why they chose those specific sequence of steps, right? So you're asking them to think through and explain, and that's exactly what engineers do when they're putting together the systems for the AI models. Okay, the next is that students can practice data and pattern recognition by collecting, analyzing, and identifying patterns. So when students collect, analyze, and identify patterns in data, they're doing exactly what AI does. So by helping them understand how data turns into insight, we're introducing the core of machine learning, how machines use patterns to make predictions and decisions. So what does this look like in the classroom? Well, you can do something real simple. Just collect a data set, such as the student's eye color, hair color, favorite subject, and then have students work together to find patterns in the data and make predictions. For example, what's the most common combination of eye and hair color in the class? Or is there a relationship between favorite subject and hair color, right? Just gathering random data. For a secondary example, so this might be more appropriate for high school students, and Tom's going to talk a little bit more about this later, but the website Kaggle is a great place to just go and find a variety of data sets. So you can send students to that site, have them find a data set that's of interest to them, and then have them work together to find patterns, make predictions, and explain their thinking. So these are things that are already out there, right? And these are not necessarily related to AI, they're just the skills that are needed in this AI evolving world. All right. So now let's take a look at bias and fairness. So students need to understand that AI models are only as good as the data they're trained on. And if that data is biased, the AI's output will also be biased. And we've talked about this in our previous webinars. Now, here's the thing. AI doesn't know what's fair. It only knows what it's been fed. So if the data reflects bias, the AI will reproduce it. So teaching our students to question and test those outputs helps them to see the human responsibility behind every AI response. So what does this look like in the classroom, or what can it look like? We'll ask students to conduct image searches, for example, for certain job titles like a doctor, a nurse, a CEO, a programmer, a teacher. Have them record what they observe about the people found in the top results, and then have them discuss what patterns do you see and what might this say about the bias in the data that these tools are relying on. So very simple things that you can integrate into your lesson that can help students practice these critical skills. All right, so I'm going to turn it back over to Tom now to talk about student-driven pathways.
All right. Thanks, Catherine. So at some point, students need to get in the driver's seat with this, right? And I know that not every school district's there, but we're getting close. And at some point, we need to have some type of experience where students are using AI tools in ethical and responsible ways. Because if that's what we want to prepare them for, they need to actually do it in schools. So, what are some student-driven pathways? So, one that you could do right away. This is more for secondary, right, Catherine? This would be more for like secondary level, not really elementary. But if you're in a secondary level, IBM has actually partnered with Kahoot to develop some pre-made lessons that you can actually test out with your students. So we've covered some of the classroom connections between computational thinking and AI and STEM and AI, which are all mainly teacher-driven, but we know that meaningful learning is authentic and more importantly, student-driven. So the main point to think about is how can we empower students to find their own path to AI career success? And this could be one option that you test out. Now, when you go there, you don't actually have to log into the IBM platform. You could go directly to the bit.ly link above. So bit.ly/IBM Kahoot. That will bring you directly to the collection within Kahoot of all of these. Now, if you've never used Kahoot before, it is a gamified assessment platform. I think I first used it back in 2013, but I'm gonna stop doing all the stories. But it's been around for a while. It's excellent. It's a great way to engage students. It's probably the most popular gamified tool out there. The only caveat is sometimes kids are like, "Oh my God, I've been doing Kahoots for 10 years." So you might get some of that. But there are some excellent pre-made modules in here that you can guide them to. All of them have pre-made quizzes, and they do topics such as AI behind social media, AI in gaming, AI meets music. So a lot of different topics that really hit home with younger learners. And consider using this for different purposes. So it doesn't have to be like a whole unit, for instance. It could just be a quick hook to generate student interest and curiosity. It could be a pre or post activity to complement a course that maybe you're running through the IBM Skills Build platform. We haven't mentioned this today yet, but yes, there are full courses that students can take for free with credentials in the IBM Skills Build platform on all of these topics. Um, and if you're interested in learning, as we mentioned, feel free to jump straight to that Kahoot. Or after the session, if you're not quite sure how to get access to it, always reach out to us at any time, admin@edtechteacher.org, or gail@edtechteacher.org, and ask for some help to get access to these. Okay, so next up is we do have several courses in here. There's a lot of them, but the ones that we like to point folks to for the students part of this is there are some short courses that some of them are not even courses, they're like 15 to 20-minute modules that introduced students to how AI is being used across different industries. So if you are interested in IBM Skills Build, you could go into Exploring Emerging Tech. How is technology used in live concerts? Students actually really enjoy that one. How is AI enhancing professional basketball? And then digital literacy, there's a whole module on that, a whole learning plan that covers a ton of stuff. But there's even one in there on fantasy football. So if there's any fantasy football fans, is actually how is AI used to enhance fantasy football? So a lot of different options there, but the whole point is giving them some type of experience so that they can see how is AI being used in industries around the world right now, and try to gain some interest in how they might be able to leverage that into something that they're passionate about, that they're interested and curious in. The other thing that I wanted to share, and actually we talked about Kaggle, I'll bring that back up in a second, but there are a lot of ways that you can get students involved in other ways, not just through lessons, through competitions and challenges. One of the things that I used to do a lot is we had this We the People competition and Project Citizen competition where students would actually present their public policy solutions to a group. The whole point is that there was an audience beyond the teacher. That's really it. Like, it doesn't have to be this world-renowned competition. Just if you can find something where students can engage in some type of challenge or competition outside of the classroom walls, that always helps drive engagement. Every experiences that I've had with that, that's been the case. So one that we like to share is called Kaggle. Actually, Catherine was mentioning this earlier. This is a huge database and community to go in and find out what are some of the competitions that my students may be able to join. So this is an excellent open database. Another one that we'd like to highlight is First Robotics. That's another one, definitely more of a robotics competition, but there are examples here too that you can have students engage and join in a competition. The other thing is through project-based learning. So just brainstorming ideas for student projects, like maybe having students create a simple chatbot or training a model to recognize objects and images. There's a lot of examples there. If you're interested more about project-based learning, we always like to recommend the Buck Institute. They do a lot of excellent work. PBL Works is actually their, I think, brand for project-based learning. They do excellent work there. And then Project Lead the Way. So PLTW, that is an excellent curriculum. Just about every school that I've worked with that has used it has liked that curriculum. So those are two that you can check out. And then also think about mentorships. There's a lot of organizations and businesses that would love to become more involved with schools and organizations. It could also be other groups such as local Rotary clubs or things like that that are just interested in working. And then alumni networks. There may be some former students that are in these fields that are very interested in sharing and helping out students in your class. And then lastly, elective courses and clubs. So for instance, if you wanted to create a coding club or an AI club, or just encourage students to engage in some type of after school activities around these tools, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of students that are asking and really thirsty for this type of experience, especially if students are in a school where AI is not allowed. Students can't use it. If if they're in that type of school, the only place they might be able to is in an after school club. So if you're in that situation where you're in a school district where you're just really handcuffed in what you can do, try to maybe think of an elective course or an after school club to just get things started because you will have students that are interested in this. Trust me, it is going to happen. I mean, how could they not? Right? So if you're running into some headwinds, think about creating an elective course or a club. That might be your best way to get in with this. All right. So where do we go from here? I'm going to kick it back to Catherine.
All right, thanks, Tom. And I just actually wanted to piggyback on what you were saying with all the different clubs and the schools and districts that are banning AI from on their campus. Just remember that there's a lot of clubs out there that teach students just the basic skills, not the
Yeah.
technical skills, right? But the soft skills that students need to learn. So a lot of those clubs that are already on campus are helping students with communication, critical thinking, problem solving. So it
Right.
doesn't have to be technical related, just as long as they're learning those creative, skills, problem solving, persistence, things like that. Okay, all right, off my soapbox. All right, so where do we go from here? So hopefully we've demystified the path to careers in the age of AI and shown that the foundation for preparing your students currently exists in the interdisciplinary skills that you are already teaching. So we're going to go on to the next slide. So we began our session with the following statement and question, right? Think about the students in your classes. 10 to 15 years from now, their careers will be fundamentally shaped by artificial intelligence, where the jobs be about building AI, working alongside AI, or finding work in the field that is completely untouched by it. I don't know if that'll happen, but anyways, so our goal today was to show you that you're not starting from scratch. You can build on the incredible work that you're already doing. So you're not just preparing students for a world with AI, you're equipping them with the timeless human skills that will be essential for their success. You're also giving them the tools to be creative problem solvers, not just task doers. You're teaching them to be critical thinkers who question information, not just accept it. And most importantly, you're modeling what it means to be a lifelong learner who can adapt and thrive in any circumstance. Okay, so like as Tom and I were saying, you're already doing this stuff. It's just making sure to be intentional, to explicitly call it out for your students that these are the skills that will eventually help them be successful in any career that they choose to go in. And I see that Tom has launched our AI confidence poll, the post one. So it's looking like we did move the needle a little bit. So the question was, how confident do you now feel about guiding your students towards future careers in the AI related field? So yay, that's a good thing. Tom, you're on mute. Did
Yep.
you want?
So we had 7 out of 9 out of 3, and the other 2 out of 4. So we got people moving.
Good, good. Okay. And then there were people that did put in some stuff for the other survey. Were you able to see what they were saying? Because I know we kept that one open.
I do not know how to get access
Okay.
to this.
Well, we'll definitely take a look at that later, so don't worry. Sorry
Yes.
we weren't able to highlight that for you. Okay, so at the end of all of our webinars, we always like to do some type of pause and reflect kind of exercise. So the Someday Monday kind of routine, we've done this before. So it's always kind of hard to figure out where do we start, right? All this information that you're given doesn't matter what the topic of the learning is. And I know I have all these grandiose ideas about what I'm going to do, but the bottom line is if I don't take a first small step, I'm never going to get anywhere. So that's the someday Monday kind of idea. So the someday is when students leave your classroom, what skills do you want them to have that will be valuable in 10 years? How can you design your curriculum to prioritize teaching the process of learning over memorizing content? Ensuring your students can adapt to any new technology that emerges. That's a big someday goal, right? So here's the Monday one. What's one small tweak that you can make to an upcoming lesson to help students practice one of the transferable skills needed for a career in the age of AI? So one small tweak. All right. So, we'd like to leave you with a quote from UNESCO that speaks to the importance of thinking how can we better prepare our students for careers in the age of AI? So, the quote is the aim of AI in education should move beyond merely providing access to information and standardized responses towards inquiry enrichment, intellectual development, and capacity empowerment. All right. So now we're coming towards the conclusion of our time together. So to earn your certificate for attending our webinar, and hopefully you were able to access the link in IBM Skills Build that I know Gail had addressed in the Q&A. But in IBM Skills Build, you need to click on today's webinar, and that'll be found in that should be the bottom left of the web page itself. And then you just click Mark Complete and then click submit, and then under actions you'll be able to view and or download your digital certificate. And then IBM Skills Build keeps track of all of your learning activities. You just have to select progress in the upper right corner of the main page. So if for any reason you cannot find the page or you have issues with the certificate, please reach out to us at admin@edtechteacher.org and we will get back to you. All right. Lastly, so we would love to have your feedback. So if you have time, I know it's really early for our friends in Romania, so it's okay if you do it later. But we would love for you to scan the QR code or use the bit.ly link to complete the survey. So it's bit.ly/AI webinar survey 2025. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Tom.
Excellent. And truly, if you're here live with us or if you're watching the archive on IBM or on YouTube or wherever, let us know what you'd want to learn more about, right? So we have this AI series that we're working on throughout the fall of 2025, but we're going to keep on rocking, right? So let us know. Email us. You have our contact admin@edtechteacher.org. If there's any specific topics or sub areas or angles that you'd like us to cover, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us and let us know what type of AI professional development you would really be interested in, and we'll make it happen. So thank you so much for giving us the feedback, and we are here to help you. So, speaking of that, our next opportunity to help folks is I'm really looking forward to this one, Catherine. This is going to be a fun one. Get not that this one wasn't, this was good too, but getting AI to work for you, learning the art of prompting. And this really is what unlocks AI for teachers, right? If you're an educator and you can learn the language of using AI and you get good at that, you are going to find amazing ways that you can use it. There's no doubt. Every teacher I've worked with, that aha moment happens, their eyes get wide, like, wow, I can use this for this. Everyone can get there. So if you want to join us on November 3rd, we are going to show you some of the best tips and tricks for getting AI to work for you with really good prompting strategies. So really hope you guys can join us. And even if you can't, sign up anyway. We'll send you the archive. We'll get you access. You don't have to attend live. We can get you the archives. We'd love for you to attend live, but you do not have to. We will get that for you. And to register, you would go to edtechteacher.org/skills. You can access any of our AI courses, and I cannot stress this enough. We can provide no cost live or in some cases on site professional development for your teachers for free, right? So we can do this at zero cost, any of the topics from this. And we're also working on a full AI credentialing PD program through IBM. We'd be happy to offer that as well once that is available. We're actually looking at that within the next month or two. So feel free to reach out to us at any time. But in the meantime, go to edtechteacher.org/skills. We have that. Last thing, keep an eye out. We have our AI Summit. It happens every year in the spring. So our spring 2026 event, we're going to announce that in the next week or two. We would love to have you join our AI Summit if you are available. So keep an eye out for that. You can join our newsletter to keep an eye out as well. All right, so that does it for our workshop for this week. We thank you so much for joining us. We'll stick around for the last couple minutes if you have any final questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us live. Thank you for watching the archive, and we look forward to seeing you next time.